In the harbor of Long Beach, California, there's a ship docked quietly beside the shore, an Art Deco beauty frozen in time. Thousands visit her each year, drawn in by whispers of opulence, war, and death. But once the sun goes down, the Queen Mary becomes something else entirely. Not just a retired ocean liner, not just a relic of bygone era, but a vessel caught in time, one that never stops sailing. Because according to dozens of credible reports, something still moves down those old corridors. Something that remembers war, that remembers drowning, that remembers being locked inside. And tonight, you're going to hear everything. But first, the truth behind how she earned her crown. In the 1920s, the race for transatlantic dominance was heating up. The French had SS Normandy, the Germans had Bremen, the Americans had Manhattan, but Britain wanted its crown back. So Cunard Line began work on a ship so grand that she would dwarf every vessel on the seas. And in 1930, at a shipyard in Clydebank, Scotland, still met ambition. But just 1 year into construction, the Great Depression hit and work halted. For nearly 3 years, the partially completed hull, known as Hull 534, sat rusting, until the British government stepped in with a loan on one condition. Cunard would merge with its longtime rival, the White Star Line, the company behind the Titanic. The merger happened, the funds were released, and construction resumed. She was christened Queen Mary, reportedly after King George V's wife, though some say that it wasn't the original plan. Cunard supposedly wanted to name the ship Queen Victoria, but when they went to ask the king's permission, they said, "We intend to name this ship after England's greatest queen." The king then replied, "My wife will be delighted." Whoops. Launched in 1934, she was 1,019 feet long, capable of speeds over 30 knots, and built to carry over 2,100 passengers and 1,000 crew. When she made her maiden voyage in May of 1936, the people wept. This wasn't just a ship. It was a floating city drenched in Art Deco glory. 5 dining rooms, 2 swimming pools, a grand ballroom, a beauty salon, libraries, nurseries, and even a hospital. And some of the most beautiful architecture ever put to sea. She was instantly beloved by the elite. Celebrities like Fred Astaire, Winston Churchill, Elizabeth Taylor, and even the Duke and Duchess of Windsor sailed aboard her. She won the coveted Blue Ribbon for fastest Atlantic crossing multiple times, but even then, not everything was perfect. Stewards began whispering of sudden temperature drops in unused rooms. Passengers claimed that they heard footsteps when no one was there. And one woman was even found dead in her cabin, her expression frozen in fear. But things were about to get darker. When World War II broke out, the Queen Mary was immediately conscripted. Her polished brass, fine woodwork, and plush upholstery were stripped away. Her hull was painted a gunship gray. She became a troop transport vessel, fast and stealthy and dangerous. She earned a new nickname, the Gray Ghost. Because she was so fast, submarines couldn't catch her. She would zigzag through dangerous waters, carrying up to 16,000 troops at a time, more than any other ship in history. She played a vital role in transporting Allied forces around the globe. Even Hitler allegedly placed a bounty on her, 250,000 to any U-boat commander who could sink her. No one did. But the danger wasn't just from outside the ship. In October of 1942, tragedy struck. Off the coast of Ireland, the Queen Mary accidentally collided with her own escort ship, the HMS Carasoa. Due to strict orders not to stop under any circumstances, especially in U-boat zones, the Queen Mary continued forward, slicing the smaller ship in two. 338 British sailors died. Many were seen bobbing in the water, calling out for help. The Queen Mary was forbidden to stop or turn back, and some say that their cries still echo below Deck 13. After the war, the Queen Mary was refitted into a passenger liner once again, but something had changed. Commercial air travel had begun to take over. Crossing the Atlantic in 5 days wasn't impressive anymore, when a plane could do it in 12 hours. She aged with grace, but her era was ending. In 1967, after 31 years of service, 1,001 Atlantic crossings, and over 2 million passengers, the RMS Queen Mary set sail on her final voyage to Long Beach, California, where she would become a floating hotel and museum, and she's been docked there ever since. But retirement didn't bring peace. You can walk her decks during the day, and you can take the tour, you can eat at the restaurant, you can even sleep in one of her luxury suites. But the people who worked aboard the Queen Mary, the ones who stayed after the last guest went to bed, they'll tell you, that's when the ship wakes up. It's at night after the lights all dim and when the laughter all fades, when the air gets colder, but the sea stays still. That's when the ship begins to move again. But not across the ocean, but through time. Over the ship's long career, over 150 known deaths occurred on board, from drownings, freak accidents, and heart attacks, murders, suicides. Some were recorded and others were just covered up. But the dead didn't all leave. Let's start with Stateroom B340, the most infamously haunted room aboard. Originally 3 smaller third-class rooms, it was converted after repeated complaints and multiple unexplained deaths. One guest in the 1940s was found screaming in the middle of the night, claiming that someone was in the room with him, but there was no one there. In the 50s, a man had died of unknown causes while writing a letter to his daughter. When the staff found him, his fingernails were broken, like he had tried to claw his way out of the room. And more recently, a hotel guest claimed that the faucets turned on all at once while he slept, and he woke up drenched in salt water. Paranormal teams have captured EVPs of deep growling, and guests have left in the middle of the night. One skeptic locked himself in to prove that it was all fake and checked himself out 4 hours later, refusing to say what he saw. This Art Deco masterpiece was once the pride of the ship. Now, it's empty, dark, sealed, but many believe that it's far from silent. Many have reported seeing wet footprints appearing across the tile floor. A little girl named Jackie calling out for her parents. Some say that she had drowned on board, and others think that she was never a passenger at all. Guests have even reported a woman in 1930 swimwear walking along the edge of the pool, pausing as if waiting to dive before fading away. Psychic mediums claim that a vortex exists there, an energetic gateway that draws spirits in, but may not let them out. In the aft engine room, near watertight door 13, is where 18-year-old crewman John Petter was crushed to death in 1966 during a routine drill. But here's the eeriest part. John was seen moments after the drill, walking toward his bunk, pale, confused, and when addressed, he simply vanished. And ever since, guests and staff have reported a figure in blue overalls and a beard seen walking into the engine shaft and then disappearing. Cold metallic clangs echoing even when the doors are sealed. Some have even said that they saw a young man step out from behind the machinery, and he was missing the lower half of his body. During World War II, when the Queen Mary struck the HMS Curacao, hundreds of sailors were thrown into the ocean. Queen Mary, under wartime orders, couldn't stop. Guests staying in bow suites near where the hull impacted report water rushing sounds behind the walls. They also report crying and shouting in the dead of the night. Some say they wake up to find the room completely freezing. The windows are completely fogged, and the sound of someone knocking from the other side of the walls. She's graceful, ageless, always alone. Dressed in a gown from the 1930s, the lady in white is often seen gliding across the now abandoned Grand Ballroom. Guests have heard big band music faintly playing from nowhere, and some say they see her dance with a partner who isn't there. Others claim that if you enter the ballroom alone, you will feel like someone is watching you from the gallery above. But when security checks, there's nobody there. A less publicized room, but room 427 has made even staff uneasy. A guest once reported waking up to a man sitting on the edge of her bed, staring at the door. She couldn't move. When she blinked, he was gone. That guest, a U.S. Navy veteran who never even believed in ghosts before. Old audio captured by researchers include a child's giggle, the phrase, "Don't go in there," a series of knocks which, when analyzed, matched Morse code for SOS. Some believe a fire broke out in the nursery in the 1950s, but no records remain. Just soot patterns and reports of burning smell with no source. Long Beach is quiet at night. The bay stays still. But workers aboard the Queen Mary, especially overnight cleaners and maintenance staff, report doors slamming from inside locked rooms, typewriters clacking in the ship's former offices, though they have long been removed. Disembodied footsteps, often pacing one corridor over, always out of reach. And a crew bell that rings in the early hours of the morning, though it hasn't even been wired in decades. Something older? One psychic investigator said something that still chills the crew today. She said, "There are ghosts on this ship, yes, but something else too, something that watches them. Some say it's just trauma echoes. Others think the Queen Mary, built during the Depression, baptized in war, steeped in tragedy, became a vessel for something darker. The ship has become a memory collector that absorbed grief, a place where time folds in on itself, repeating like a haunting, residual haunting that these tragedies keep playing over and over." You can walk the Queen Mary, you can eat dinner in her salons, you can sleep where royalty once slept, but you won't be alone, because in her still bones, in her darkened passageways, something has never left.